Tuesday, August 4th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we talk a bit about the board game Hacienda.
That was stupid. Let's do this.
We're back from Connecticut, and we finally have a break. At least a little bit of a break.
Also, we live. Beware. Yes.
Yeah, you could say something like that. But
Something along those lines.
We didn't really miss any episodes because thankfully, as much as I
think the reason we didn't miss episodes is because I'm not sure if last week was actually supposed to be a Monday, Wednesday week. We sort of did that for convenience sake.
It was, but we've messed it up previously. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But I'm very glad that despite the fact that I really wanted to go, as I always do, that we didn't go to SDCC. That just would have been too much.
No, but we will go eventually. Maybe next year, maybe the year after. You know, the thing is, it's so Hollywood. I'm not really in a big rush. You know, it's like, and if I did go, like I wouldn't actually, you know, because I would just refuse. Like if I'm going to San Diego, right? I'm not going to waste my time waiting in lines. So if I do go to that, I'm only going to go to stuff that doesn't have big lines.
If you don't want to wait in lines, you're not going to get to see any of the cool stuff.
Well, I'll get to see all the stuff on the floor, but I wouldn't get to see any event type stuff unless I got in line way early. But luckily, it does have 4 days, so you sort of do have time to see, you know, to wait in a couple lines. But if I went there, I'd also just want to spend some time in San Diego, someplace I've never been, where I hear the weather is perfect every day. So, yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, on a more personal note, before we get into this, my bike got stolen.
Oh, shit.
Now, the worst thing is, my whole life, I've been biking, like, basically for as long as I could walk. I've always had a bike.
I've had 2 bikes stolen.
I always carried a little bike lock. I've never had a bike stolen in my life. And while I always locked my bike, I never worried about it. I always just thought, you know what? No one would steal my bike. And I locked it just because, you know, I kind of did. It was just this thing. And one day, you know, a couple days ago, I rode my bike to the train station in a hurry. You know, I was almost going to miss my train. And I forgot my bike lock. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to leave it here with all the other bikes. What are the odds? And you know what?
100%.
The one time in my life that I ever don't lock my bike up, it is stolen immediately.
So I got some bike stealing stories, right?
Well, the thing is, though, Beacon's not that big. Unless some kid just stole it and dished it in the woods, I'm going to see some punk kid biking around on my very obviously mine bike.
Possibly. But here, I got 2 bike stealing stories, right? I'll tell the less interesting one first, even though that's reverse chronological order.
All right.
I had a bike.
Right, let me guess. And then it got stolen?
No, it was at my house, and I was at summer camp, right? And I was at summer camp, and then summer camp went on a field trip to Dorney Park, I think. So whenever you're on a field trip at summer camp, you always use the payphone to call your parents collect, right? In those non-cell phone days, right? So I did, and that's when I found out my bike was stolen while I wasn't there, and I had left it locked up. So that means when I was away, somebody else, did something not so good.
Well, wait, locked up where? Like at your house?
Yeah, my house.
I can't imagine a bike being stolen from someone's house.
Perhaps I should ask my parents again. Maybe now they will admit that, like, they were poor, and I don't know. They were never poor, but, you know, they sold it and needed money or gave it away or who knows what. Anyway, here's the more interesting story, right? You know, back in the olden days when I used to hang out with the kids on the block, we all rode the bikes around like a bicycle gang, but there was no other gang. It was just us and just 3 streets, and that was it.
We had a rival gang, and we had like 8 streets.
Whoa, anyway.
Yeah, that's suburbia.
So, I dropped the bike on the lawn, and I went in the house, was playing some video games, heard some noise outside, looked out the window, saw some people biking past that were not anyone we knew, but I didn't pay much attention to it. I just sort of noticed it because, you know, it was a quiet weekend day, nice and sunny out, right? Then we sort of realized bike was missing, and my friend's bike was missing too. He also left his on his lawn, and it was like, what the hell? Some kids must have come down our street and took all our bikes and then biked away. So, I guess, there was some police call in action, whatever. It was like in the days where police would actually respond to a stolen bike.
They respond. I went to the Beacon police station. I filed a report.
No. Like this was respond as in a bunch of cops get in cars and start driving around response, looking for him.
I'll bet if I'd been a kid as opposed to me, I could have gotten the police in Beacon to do that.
But my dad also drove around.
Did your dad beat up some kid, get your bike back?
Well, he definitely got the bikes back, even though they bent my handlebars. I don't know if he beat anyone up, but I think he was like chasing them, and then the cops came from the other direction, and the kids like jumped into the woods, and it was a situation.
Wow.
So
even living in Detroit, I never had anything like that. But
well, that's the thing, is that it was such a non-crime place that a stolen bike was like, cops are like, hell's yeah, work to do. Woo!
But bike never gets stolen in like Detroit, leaving it outside like the inner city
Detroit,
school.
no one wants a freaking bicycle.
Are you kidding? One day I was riding my bike to work and a gang of kids attacked this other kid across the street, beat him up and took his bike.
Wow.
Yeah.
They must just not like the kid. Why would they want the bicycle? I mean, if they're going to do that, you can beat up someone and take a motorcycle, all right? If you're willing to beat someone up. So,
well, the thing is, the kid was like 7, and the kids that beat him up were like 14.
No.
They're not going to be beating anyone up who owns a motorcycle.
yeah, see, that's what I don't understand, though, is like, if you're willing to beat someone up to take something, right, you're already basically guilty of, assault and robbery and such, right? And that assault charge doesn't change depending on what you steal. Only the stealing, burglary, robbery, larceny charge
it
changes based on what you steal.
Well, it depends.
So, at least as far as I know, not being a lawyer
Plus, Scott,
in any way, shape, or form.
As I've always, whenever I think about committing crimes all the time, it's the engineer's mind. You look at the armored car, and, all geeks look at it and think, I could take that.
I wanted, an armored car heist is like, I just want to do it to prove I could do it. I'd be like,
just that is the edge of the line.
It's like I just want to be in the armored car and have them open the door and be like, I doed it.
It's just like that scene in Dominion Tank
I don't
Police.
want the money. I just want to prove I did it.
Where the head of the tank police is like, what kind of world is this where the criminals blah, blah, blah. You know what? Why don't we just rob a bank?
You look at
I want to rob a bank. I've always wanted to. I've just been keeping myself pure.
You look at that armored car, and it's this big metal box that's meant to keep you out, and you're like, I can fucking get in there. Hell's yeah, that would be so fucking awesome. It's like, you're not, so they do everything they possibly can to keep you from getting in there. If you can get in there, what's more badass than that?
It's
Nothing.
like a rabbit that lives with a lion.
Exactly.
Anyway, I can't believe, faith in humanity minus that my whole life, bike never gets stolen. The one time ever I leave it unlocked for like 9 hours amidst a bunch of other bikes. So that means that someone went up there and was looking for an unlocked bike.
Yep.
Oh, well. But Kineticon, we were there last weekend, and we're not really going to talk about it tonight because, you know what? It's not a gaming con. It's not an anime con. It's a generic con, so we're going to talk about it on Thursday.
Oh, great excuse to fill up a Thursday episode for which we are sorely lacking ideas.
I got a ton of ideas. You just never want to talk about them.
It's a cop-out, but it is a totally valid cop-out, and it fills a Thursday episode. Hooray.
Plus, we got to cover Kineticon right away. But, anyone who was in Panel 5, that was our room.
Oh.
Panel 5. And a minor announcement, I'll just point this out now, but we are now the heads of panels and workshops for Kineticon. It's official, complete. So we'll have this all scheduled within a few weeks.
If you're an awesome person and you know who you are.
And you want to submit.
And you want to come to Connecticut next August, probably. What they announced the dates actually, didn't they?
I don't even know.
I don't even know. It's probably early August, late July, a week or two after Otakon. It's not going to be the same weekend as Otakon or San Diego, right? It's probably going to be the week after those. That's the usual timing of it. And you want to come to Connecticut then and do awesomeness in a, gaming, anime, anything kind of geeky action. You know how to call us. So, we're here. We're waiting for you.
Wow. You trailed off and made that sound very unexciting.
No, it's,
Kineticon's great, though, for one reason and one reason alone. We're there, and second reason...
I'm there.
Action Castle was there.
Castle.
I think Action Castle was the second most popular thing at the con after Art Fight.
It's pretty popular.
All things considered.
All right.
But anyway, gaming news. We got a little bit of gaming news. Let's talk about PAX.
It's strangely light on gaming news. I think everyone's saving for PAX, in fact. That is my guess. But anyway, PAX. Due to the fact that there's so little gaming news, everyone's saving it for PAX. Let's just talk about PAX.
We
I'm
are
gonna
going
say
to be
PAX
there.
10 times.
The Penny Arcade Expo, which is pretty much the best gaming convention in the world, in Seattle every year over Labor Day weekend.
You know what I did today?
You thought about PAX?
Well, in my little tweets on my iPhone, right, I can have columns for tweet searches, right? So I had a tweet search for Otakon, so I would see everyone talking about Otakon even if I wasn't following them,
as far
right?
as I can tell, more people have tweeted about PAX in the last month than tweeted about Otakon while Otakon was going on.
So then I deleted that column and I created a Kineticon column. Then today I deleted the Kineticon column, I made a PAX column. So when I'm making a column for it that it's coming up. So at PAX, me and Rim are doing three, 5 is right out, 3 panels. 3. They are Beyond D&D, which is the same exact thing that we ran last year, only we are more practiced at it, so it is slightly better, but it is the same material.
All right, Captain, so you're making this your news? When are these things scheduled? What rooms?
I don't know.
You don't know? All right.
It doesn't really matter.
Beyond Dungeons and Dragons, we're reprising it on Sunday, 10 a.m.
Sunday. Oh, don't want to get sued.
in the Raven Theater.
Raven Theater.
One day back on Saturday, we're doing our new panel, Losing Should Be Fun, at 10:30 in the Wolfman Theater.
Yeah, we practiced that at Kineticon. Pretty good.
And Beyond Candyland is Friday at 11:30 a.m. in the Raven Theater again.
I wonder about that Friday 11:30. I hope it does not conflict. Wait, 11:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Wow, PAX didn't even start until like what 2 or 3 last year, right? It started
Now,
late.
this is the tentative schedule, and they have not published the official schedule
Oh,
yet.
they
so
might be.
things may change.
They might be starting earlier this year. That's interesting. But anyway, I hope that does not conflict with any of the things I would like to see, such as keynote, et cetera, et cetera.
Thing is, other than the keynote, I go to the concerts because they're awesome. But what could someone possibly ask in the Q&A that will top last year's Q&A? You only really need to see that once.
No, I don't know. It's the only thing I'm concerned with conflicting with is the keynote. Like I'd like to go to many of the other main events and things, but I won't be like, I'd rather do my panel than do, say, a Gabe and Tycho Q&A or the draw a comic panel, which I missed last year.
I
right?
do want to go to the Q&A just to continue the trend that we started last year.
Yeah, but I do not want to miss the keynote for anything, so I hope that we do not conflict with it.
But that aside, don't forget that the Penny Arcade Expo East Coast is going to be in March in Boston.
Is it the week before or the week after Anime Boston?
I don't know. I haven't even figured out our schedule for panels yet.
Yeah, I got to figure out how I can stay in Boston for a whole week. Hello, friends who live in Boston. Get a couch ready.
I'll probably just stay in a hotel.
Maybe for a whole week.
I got money.
It's a lot of money.
It's not that much.
Maybe we could stay in a hotel during the con, like right next to the convention center. But then, like the Monday through Thursday in between, stay in like a motel, like a little bit out of the ways. That's mad cheap.
It's a
And has
possibility.
some free internet, as opposed to the expensive hotels, which usually don't have free
My only
internet.
debate is whether or not to take an entire week of vacation or to see if I can work quote unquote from home.
That
for
was
a
my
week.
plan, to work from quote unquote Boston.
Thing is, I'd rather just not work and just have a vacation on the West Coast.
You mean on it's on the East Coast,
Oh,
in
yeah.
Boston.
I want to take a week off on the West Coast too.
Yeah, I'd like to. Well, if I can get my work to let me go to Django Con, which is the week after PAX, then maybe I could just stay on the West Coast after PAX. And
Except you already bought your plane ticket non-refundable back after PAX, didn't you?
That's fine.
Yeah.
I can deal with that.
Can you?
Yeah, I can cancel it.
You got to pay $100 to cancel it.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do.
No, it's not that bad.
It's $100 though.
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad, but it's $100.
I don't know if it's $100.
They're not JetBlue tickets like that are non-refundable, but it is $100 to change, which includes the cancellation.
Well, whatever. Doesn't matter.
That's how it works.
My company. Thing is, if I'm staying out there, as soon as PAX is over, it's my company's dime. So yeah, I'll pay $100 if that means I'm gonna they'll get me a rented car and they'll get me a hotel in Portland where I'm gonna have to stay for the Django Con, and plus we'll see if this even happens, right? Anyway.
So in actual gaming news outside of conventions, Namco Bandai or Bandai Namco's sales figures are out, and they had this long report of all these things no one cares about, but for Q1 2010, you know what the top selling game that they made was? Far and away, almost double anything else?
I'm guessing like Pac-Man iPhone or something.
Afro Samurai.
Wow, they're not doing too well. How many sales was it?
500,000.
That's not good. I mean, usually games, they need like 1 million sellers.
But third down on the list is Dragon Ball Z Attack of the Saiyans in Japan only on the DS.
Wow. And that was less than $500,000.
Yeah, and the other two big games were We Ski and Snowboard and We Ski. I didn't even know there were two different games.
No, I hope We Ski is like Free Ski, though. Then I'll buy it.
Will you?
Is there an abominable snowman who eats you at the bottom inevitably?
You know, he won't eat you if you're good.
Oh, you can. I've dodged. How many times have you dodged him in a row?
You know, I don't even know. I just remember that I got that game way back when I didn't know how stuff worked. I basically thought games were free. And then when I realized the games weren't free and my friends were just pirating them and giving me copies, I went to the store and I bought what ended up being actually a bootleg collection that was sold semi-legitimately.
We actually had a legitimate Microsoft Best of Entertainment pack.
No, I had this like 35 games pack that we bought at like Electronics Boutique.
Got Chips. I have a legitimate copy of Chips Challenge.
I have a bootleg copy of Chips Challenge.
Damn.
That I bought at an EB.
And you know what? We can't possibly tell the difference. It's just ones and zeros that are exactly the same.
Of course, nothing ever beat Jazzball.
No, I Jazzball also legitimately.
But more and more, we haven't talked about this, so I do want to bring it up at least a little bit that, you know, the Boy and His Blob game is coming. The remake of A Boy and His Blob. And it's looking more and more fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen everything I've seen of it tells me that's the awesome win.
I mean, it really looks
I wish
like
they
all
would
they
have
did
made
was
a co-op though, where one person could be the Blob and one person could be the boy.
all they did was take the concept and then just fix every bad game mechanic, because The Boy and His Blob was an unbeatable, impossible, horrifying game back in the day.
Yeah, but the idea of having a blob follow you and giving it jelly beans is a great idea.
The only thing they kind of took away that I'm a little bit sad about is that they made the game cartoony and cute.
They made it not more Indiana Jones like it used to be.
Well, no, it's
It used to be all Indiana Jones Pitfall.
No, it's cool and cute, but the original styling of the game was vaguely just disturbing and dark and weird.
It was Indiana Jones Pitfall?
No, look at the graphic design of the original game. It was just the whole thing was dark and absurd and kind of frightening.
It was Indiana Jones and Pitfall.
And you realize only a tiny bit of it was that, and then the rest was candy corn.
Well, the candy corn was something else.
That was the real game. The first part of the game was just get the treasure to buy the vitamins to get to the real game.
Yeah. That was it. So,
And I don't recall Indiana Jones swimming with bubbles.
he swam with the bubbles.
Over spikes.
But then the snakes.
There weren't so many snakes.
Hate snakes.
I know.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, and I'm actually hoping that we see, first we had the Bionic Commando Rearmed, right? Which was basically a direct remake of the original Bionic Commando. But
I'm so sad
this is taking an old concept and from a game that didn't have a lot of polish
I'm so
and
sad,
making
though,
it again with
that
modern polish.
The remake of the original game was great, but the new game they made based on the concept, the actual 3D Bionic Commando, was pretty weak sauce as far as anyone could tell. It was just
it sold so poorly, no one's buying it.
It was a terrible game.
It is a terrible game.
But it says something for the game industry that if they just take some old game that was known to be good or at least had a good concept and just remake it with modern technology, but still make it a 2D, make it what the original game was.
There are a lot of things out in this world, right, that only failed, not just in video games, but in general. There are a lot of failures out there that only failed because they lacked the necessary surface polish, and they have some valuable, good meats on the inside.
But what are you talking about the Bionic Commando? That game was hugely popular in the U.S.
Well, I'm not talking about Bionic Commando. I'm just talking about the remake of that. But the Boy and His Blob, right? They took these old good meats.
That game was actually also pretty popular, and as far as I recall, it sold really well.
I don't know how well it sold. Anyway,
consider how much of an enduring legacy it has. That people remembered that game and talked about it.
People remember a lot of things that didn't sell at all. So.
No, but they remember it and liked it. Plus,
people remember Zelda CDI just as much as they remember Boy and His Blob.
As far as I can tell, the vast majority of people didn't even know Zelda CDI existed.
The vast majority of people don't even know that Boy and His Blob exists. So.
No, but I think gamers...
People don't even know Earthbound exists.
I think gamers knew more about Earthbound and A Boy and His Blob than they did about the Zelda games.
It's hard to tell. Anyway, the point is that I hope there are more remakes of old, good, yet unpolished games.
I point out that there was basically zero buzz about the CDI games on the internet until the AVGN covered them.
No, he wasn't. They were buzzed about them way before he covered them.
Occasional tiny buzz, but it never got out there. Most people didn't know. Hardly anyone in our friend group had ever heard of these games, and our friends are gamers.
Man, I knew about them for so long.
Yes.
Anyway.
But everyone knew Boy and His Blob, and everyone knew Bionic Commando.
The point is a ton of games out there. So I can come up with a whole bunch, like Monster Party,
It wasn't that good of a game.
Monster Party? Oh, come on.
That was a terrible game.
Dr. Chaos.
Okay game.
Silver Surfer.
Terrible game.
Right? These games, if they just repolished them, they'd be great.
Wait, Silver Surfer, that's just saying make a shmup.
No, it's got to be the Silver Surfer.
Why? The core concept, Silver Surfer is better off not being a shmup.
No, it's better. The Silver Surfer's got to be a shmup. I mean, what else could it be?
Besides, you're forgetting there's only one game that really needs to be remade other than TIE Fighter that isn't already being remade.
Well, actually...
And that is Metal Marines for the SNES.
Metal Marines is another good choice. No, actually, LucasArts is starting to do a lot of remakes. They did the Monkey Island. They're doing some other action, right? Somebody asked them about the TIE Fighter and the X-Wing, and the LucasArts person said, I can't say anything yet. Just wait, ... Something, something. Maybe,
Here, the problem
maybe,
is
wink,
that is,
wink, nudge, nudge.
That is equally code in marketing for we have something, but we can't announce it yet, and we haven't done anything, but we're pretending we might have to gauge interest.
Either way is good by me.
I don't know how much interest there is. It's a chicken and egg situation where there's just now that flight stick, which is weird because that basically
Coincidence?
A chicken appeared.
Conspiracy?
A chicken appeared, but there was no egg. Just suddenly there was a chicken.
There's a chicken and there's a wink for an egg. There's a wink and a nod suggesting that the hen's gonna lay an egg, which is more than we've had since, let's see, when did TIE Fighter come out? Over a decade.
No, there was X-Wing Alliance was a fantastic game.
When did that come out?
I don't even know. But after TIE Fighter, and
it had to be a long time ago.
And after X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, which I can only describe in one word: abortion.
It doesn't matter. I have. Actually, I don't really care because even if this game comes out, by the time it comes out, I'll just be playing NS2 and won't give a shit.
That's the only game that matters.
All right, so.
But anyway, things of the day. What do you got for me?
So, how people like to do verses, right? They do I don't know, Voltron versus Messenger.
You mean like a fanboy feud?
Star Wars versus Star Trek or Superman versus Batman, right?
All right.
Are you ready for the ultimate verses?
I've already seen Mega Man versus Donkey Kong.
Henry Rollins.
All right.
Versus Techno Viking.
Rollins. It's definitely Rollins.
Well, no, but there's this video they mashed up Rollins complaining about techno music and Techno Viking. They took the two videos and put them together in a funny way. In fact, in a way that creates a techno song. And I enjoy this very much. So I hope you enjoy it very much.
So who would win then? Rollins in a Cosby sweater or Bruce Campbell in a Cosby sweater?
What's the competition? I mean, is it chess boxing, shooting,
eating pudding pops?
Pudding pops?
We'll talk about.
We know that when you wear a Cosby sweater, you have infinite pudding pop eating power, so it'll be a tie.
We'll talk about that on Thursday, but suffice it to say, Cosby sweaters were a big part of Connecticut. So,
yeah.
In old cartoons when there'd be a mouse or something talking really quickly, like in Tom and Jerry and everything, and you have the
or in Peanuts, it'd be like the teacher. Well,
the thing is, particularly with Chip and Dale, and apparently with Popeye, all they would do is get someone to say something and then speed it up and then use that as the audio. Well,
good idea.
One thing you can do that is very clever because the way audio works is slow it down and you can hear what they're actually saying. And usually it's something lame, but what I have here from College Humor is a gem. This is a 1952 Popeye. Shut eye, Popeye. Popeye's trying to sleep.
I like me some Popeye. I was actually thinking about getting this Popeye box set.
I only like the old racist black and white Popeye. I don't like any other
what
Popeye.
other Popeye would you watch?
Like Popeye Aladdin, just him basically be.
What other kind of Popeye is there?
It's just this scary, sad old sailor with Tourette's beating people up.
Exactly.
But Popeye, he's trying to sleep in his garbage can. And the mouse, the mouse wants to sleep, and Popeye's snoring, so the mouse yells at him. But if you slow it down, as far as I can tell, it's this voice actor saying, yeah, give me some lines to say. I can't really read this goddamn whatever.
Nah.
It's just some guy saying that, kind of pissed off, and that's the audio they used, apparently. Maybe they got some bum off the street, handed him a script, and that was it.
That's pretty interesting, though, to like uncover like these hidden data. It's sort of like, remember how they were.
You know what? It's sort of like that infamous picture on eBay of someone selling a teapot, and in the reflection of the teapot, if you use a Photoshop filter to deperspective it from the teapot surface, there's a naked guy holding a camera.
Yep. Well, no, it's sort of like, remember they were doing those studies where if you take old pottery and sort of run like a record needle across it, because of the...
pseudoscience mostly, Scott.
I know.
Almost entirely pseudoscience. I don't think anyone legitimate has ever read anything into that.
I know, but it's like the same idea.
It is, except one idea is made up and one idea works.
Yeah, it's the same idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. All right, so... we got to do a show on gaming. No one's been playing any video games. We definitely haven't been playing the same video games. I mean, I don't think you played any Blood Bowl.
But despite being at Kineticon and basically, running 38 hours worth of panels.
We did manage to play one board game.
We played 2 games. We played one round.
Right. Wow, we should talk about, you want to talk about both of them? I forgot about the other one.
We played the sword.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
That's not a board game.
I didn't say board game, I said game.
Yeah, that's true.
We played the sword and pretty epically, mostly because I won and you lost your strategy that you've been telling me. Basically, Scott told me...
I didn't get to use the full extent of my strategy.
Scott told me this strategy a long, long, long time ago, and he's like, I can win the sword, I just have to be the elf. And I punked him as the rat.
That's all right.
Partly because Luke Crane told me how to win as the rat, and I just did exactly what he said.
You didn't do anything. You just sat there while I got stabbed.
Basically, I took whoever's side was winning at all, and I waited until everyone was dead but me.
I made one flaw in trying to appeal to you and not appealing to the human.
You paid me, so I didn't give a shit anymore.
Yeah, but I had to get you out of the way so that the only one, because if I can't get at the team.
No.
I'm
Better
strong
strategy.
against the dwarf, but the rat is in the way. I have to move the rat aside to get the dwarf.
No, there's a better way. Tell the dwarf, you know what? Fine, you can have it. I give up my claim to the sword, let him and the rat fight, and then take the sword.
It's not so good.
That'll work.
Nah.
It'll work every time.
No, because the elf has the, when someone is hurt, soothe them.
Yes, soothe him with a sword.
I don't know how soothing the sword is. Anyway, we did play 2 board games. Talk about both or just one?
Let's talk about both, but we should talk about Hacienda in a little bit of depth. The thing is, it's a board game that's simple enough to where we don't have a lot to say about it. Just It's a good game.
Right. Well, Hacienda, let's talk about that first because it's fresh in the mind, right? I knew how to play Hacienda from back in the day because the website, spielbyweb.com, SPIELBYWEB.com, where you can play...
game by web in German.
Where you can play Hacienda online for free. And they have a bunch of other games, too, like Reef Encounter and Santiago, which I don't know how to play, and a few others, Amun-Re, right, which I do know how to play. And I used to go on this website a whole bunch, and I'd always be playing it back in the day, but I sort of stopped after a while just because they didn't add any new games, and I was sort of But then I knew that, Rim never played these games. Pretty much no one else but me had ever gone to Spiel by Web and played there. I think Alex might have. Anyway, we were at Kineticon, and we finally had a chance to play a board game, and I saw Hacienda there, and I was like, oh, right. Actually, that's a great choice because I kind of know how to play. And the thing is, when you're at a convention like this, if you pick up a board game you've never played before, and you're going to take like 2 hours or an hour just to read the rules and figure it out and set it up and teach everyone how to play, and you don't have a lot of time at a convention. Time is, precious. So a game that I knew how to play from playing it online already, and I only had to review the rules quickly, that was a very good choice. So we played Hacienda, and then me and Rim started an online game of Hacienda today.
So Hacienda is pretty much this game. It has a theme nominally of...
The theme is not it doesn't go so well.
It has a theme nominally of haciendas, basically, out in the prairie, taking land, getting
the theme
animals,
is a giant bone.
Getting animals out in the land,
it's a dog
driving
bone.
them to the market. But the game mechanics backing up this theme are so shallow.
Pretty much the game is a combination of 2 things. Number 1, it's Tron, like Through the Desert, right? It's that game. Plus resource management, sort of like Tikal, where you have action points and also resources, right? And that is Hacienda. It's all you do is you have resources, you have every turn, you have 3 actions, and you have money, and you have cards, and you can buy cards. The money gets turned into cards turn into stuff turns into money, and victory points. And then you use the money to buy more cards, to get more stuff, to get more money and victory points. And you get this cycle going on. And the stuff goes on the board. And when you put the stuff on the board, you try to put it out Tron style. You're blocking the other guy off and surrounding things. And, you know, you're trying to get really good layouts to get in the other guy's way. And you're competing over the territories to get, you know, big long strings of land or strings of animals and herds, you know, that without getting them blocked, because the longer the better.
It's a game of getting, you know, physical combos, and there's restrictions where you can put stuff. So it's through the desert, which is Cameltron, but with almost less of a theme, but more mechanics to beef it up.
Yep. The thing about this game, it's sort of weird because it's like it's not that complicated, right? You look at like a lot more complex games, like Puerto Rico's more complicated, T&E, right? This really isn't that complex. It's in fact, it's less complex than even like El Grande. Maybe I'd say it's slightly more complex than Carcassonne, right? Yet, you know, it's also so straightforward, and it's pretty much get action points, spend, you know, get stuff. It's just your decisions are so distinct. You think, oh, I should be able to solve this and just have a perfect play, right? But it's actually, for some, you know, it's not easy to get a perfect play.
Well, no, I would disagree that in a vacuum, it's kind of like, it's an Agricola situation.
In a vacuum, yes.
Well, no,
yes.
as in, it's the same thing with Agricola, where the first couple of plays, you're figuring out kind of the optimal means of generating victory points, the optimal means of controlling the things you need to control. But much like in Agricola, the real game is not making the factory work. The factory working is the trivial solution. The problem is interacting with the other players such that you get what you need and you can make your machine work within the construct of their machines.
Yeah, that's one thing I think is very good about this game, is that there are multiple ways to get victory points, and they balance each other out quite nicely. Like, let's say you try to connect to a bunch of different markets. That's one way to get a lot of victory points, right? If you're cut off from that, you can still get just as much points doing, say, haciendas or water or strings of land, or any of the other victory point machines are equally fruitful if you milk them enough. And you can never milk all of them equally unless it's like a 2-player game. There's basically no fighting over resources whatsoever. In a 3, 4, 5-player game, it's 2 to 5, right? There's a lot more competition for the resources on the map, and you're not going to be able to get the victory points in all the different categories. So you're just going to have to pick a few of them and go all out. And it's a good idea to go for ones that other people are not going for, so there's less competition. If you try to go for a big string of land and someone else is going for a big string of land, good luck with that. You know, if you try to go for, you know, just connect to a lot of different markets all over the place and someone else goes for a string of land, you're probably both going to be able to make it happen, kind of.
The 2-player game is fun, and it definitely won't run out on us. Now, we're playing it halfway through, and it's a pretty even match. We're both using different strategies, but I'm enjoying it. But it has the same, I don't know, little effort needed to jump in and play, not that much setup, and yet enough variation that 2-player doesn't get stagnant that I think it's the same reason I like Tempest so much. I can just sit down and play Tempest.
Yep. It's also another game where you can vary the map a lot. The default map is the dog bone, but you can there's a map on the reverse side, and if you play online, there's a ton of maps you can play on. I'm sure some of them are stupid, but, you know, in case you really do get bored with the bone map and you sort of figure it out, you can try all sorts of different stuff, which might be a lot more interesting. You know, at least you mix it up some. The other thing is the game does have that sort of lots of little decisions mechanic, the same thing that Ticket to Ride has, where instead of people having very long turns where you do a lot of things, everyone has little tiny turns. So you're always doing something and you're always making very small decisions that all add up to add up in the long run, which makes for, you know, a more fun play, as, you know, it's your turn more often. Turns are quick. You don't have to think about a whole lot to get your turn done. People bevagung.
Well, it has a very important, you know, it has I love the mechanic, the Entdecker.
Bevagung, sorry.
Yeah, it has two really cool mechanics. One is the Entdecker of risk management, in that you can basically always, you know, buy a known animal or a known land, like a known card for one amount of money, or buy one unknown from the top of the stack for slightly less money.
Yeah, that's the same thing you see in Ticket to Ride and also Thurn and Taxis, right? Is the draft where there are face up cards, and also you can also get the face down card. So it's like, do you want to get the face up card and know what you're getting, or do you want to risk it and get the face down card? In which case, you don't know what kind you're gonna get.
It's a great mechanic. I love it. I absolutely love it. But
It's really, I think a lot of other games that have draw from a deck mechanics would do well to incorporate this. I mean, Magic the Gathering would even do well to incorporate something like this. But that's never going to happen.
And the other part has a really cool ebb and flow. That's something that actually isn't in a lot of games, and it's not really a mechanism design thing. It's just the way the rules the way people will play you can move between building victory points or building money or something like that, where you have 2 or 3 different directions to go, but going in any one direction, the more you go in it, kind of forces you to need the thing in the opposite direction more and more and more and more.
Yeah, it's like if you start building a ton of stuff, right? First of all, you want to build faster than the other people because you're fighting over this territory,
but you
right?
can't build faster than the other people.
You'll run out of cards.
Well, no, because everyone has the same constraints. So no matter how much you pull in one direction, you can't get ahead in an absolute sense, not counting victory points, of anyone else. It's just a matter of when do you build, when do you save, when do you harvest. It's all the whens.
You got to build before the other people, but if you build before, then you run out of cards. That means you're going to be, you'll be like, yeah, you're building stuff, and you're like surrounding something, and the other guy's getting blocked off. You're like, fuck you, I win, yeah. And then you run out of cards. So you spend a few turns spending your money to buy some cards, and during those turns, the other guy starts playing all the cards he was buying when you were building. You're like, no, and then he runs out of cards. You start building with the cards you just bought, and it goes back and forth like that. And sometimes you're building at the same time, and sometimes you're mixing up the building.
Well, thus, especially with a 3 and 4 player game, it's the ebb and flow of knowing when to capitalize. It adds a lot of tactical elements to the game that would otherwise be lacking.
One thing I definitely learned, though, is you don't want to do you think, okay, why don't I just every turn buy a little bit and build a little bit? Well, because then sometimes you need to build like 2 or 3 things at a time in order to get a lock. And if you build like one piece of land, then the other guy knows where you're going and he'll cut you off over there, and now you wasted that build, right? Where if you would have built land, animal, you would have gotten your move, you would have gotten in there all at once, and you wouldn't have foreshadowed your move before you executed it. So it's the game sort of forces you to, do the big moves instead of doing lots of little ones in terms of building. So you tend to do lots of similar actions, buy, build, take card, all at once.
I also really I like the fact that you have all these different mechanisms to get money and mechanisms to get victory points, and they feel like unfair combos the first time you play. Like, you look at how scoring works to get money from animals, and you think, well, what if I just build all the way around that market? I'll score it every time. But everything in the game is like that.
Yep. The other thing is that it's I forgot what I was going to say.
Right. All right, well, here, 2 other things. One, most games, older German games tended to have the scoring rounds mechanic as opposed to continuous scoring.
That's what I was going to say.
Or endgame scoring. I remember El Grande had the neat, you'd go turn, scoring round, turn, scoring round, turn, scoring round. This is basically the college class semester version of that. There are 2 scoring rounds. Once when the animal deck is depleted the first time, and once when the animal deck is depleted the second time.
You basically cut the animal deck in half, and when it runs out, you score, and when it runs out again, you score, and the game's over. And you score the same way both times.
It's amazing. You have to either... I just count how many victory points I have and how many victory points the other person has every round and just keep it in my head.
Yep.
But you have to be ready. Like, right now, we're playing the game. There are 4 animal cards left in the deck. If anyone buys an animal card, the other person has the ability to force scoring immediately.
Yep.
And the ebb and flow...
That's why I did not buy an animal card my last turn, because I wanted to leave it at 4.
We're in an interesting situation, too, where Scott has no cards left at all.
None.
No animals, no things.
But I have a shit ton of money.
You do, so you can buy stuff, but then I can force the scoring round.
Yep.
And I go second, so as soon as I force it, you don't get to do anything.
The thing is, instead of, buying cards on my turn, I could buy water.
You can buy water, but I can buy animals.
That's true. Anyway, so yeah, the thing is with this game, right, is it's sort of easy to get a lot of money, right? But getting a lot of money doesn't necessarily get you a lot of victory points. Like, you could just surround a market with animals and you get a pile of money, but you won't really get a lot of victory points for that because it's only one market.
Well, here's the unique part of this game. It is possible to remove yourself effectively from the game.
Yep.
It is also, well, here's an example. You can basically, if you're stupid or if you're trying, put yourself in a situation where you don't have enough money to buy any cards. You have already played all of your cards, and you cannot use any of the existing mechanics in the game to get any more money.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way in the rules to recover from that.
Not that I know of.
I read the rules. There's no way to recover. It's just, you're done.
The other thing I think
it's rare to see a game like that. Like in Puerto Rico, there is no way to make yourself 100% destitute because there's the prospector.
Yeah, it's true.
There isn't even a prospector. If you've harvested your like one plantation and then you spend all that money
and
on
even
like
if you're
water,
playing Puerto Rico without a prospector, doubloons will pile up on the thing nobody wants, and you can take that thing.
the thing is, it's interesting that this trap is here because it's the equivalent of the platform that you can't jump off of in a Mario game where the only way off is to wait for the timer to run out or to jump in the pit. And usually that is the hallmark of poorly thought out design. I wonder if they anticipated it or if they just assumed that no one would be stupid enough to do it.
Well, I mean, it's so easy to get money, and they start you off with so much stuff that it's kind of hard for it to ever happen unless you're really dumb.
It's trivial if you go for it, though.
It is trivial if you go for it.
You can go for it and just be out of the game.
The other thing about the game, though, is that it's trivial to get money, right? But the actions are a scarcer resource than the money. It's like you can't spend all your money unless you spend it all on haciendas and water. If you spend all your money on cards and actually use the cards to get more money, you're just going to have so much money that you're not going to know, you can't spend it all. So it's like money isn't really a limitation, but even so, you're still, you think, oh, money isn't a limit, right? So I should just concern myself with my actions and not worry about how much money I have. And that's true to an extent, but more money is more victory points because every $10 is a victory point. And
more money means more victory points.
You know, if you have a big lineup, you can get $10 with like one card play. Like you play one animal, you get $10. So that's a whole victory point, which is kind of a big deal when they add up turn after turn.
That's the other interesting thing. You know,
so even though you don't need more money, you're still going to be trying to get more.
The difficult to fall into trap of I'm out of the game is there. There's also the subtler trap of it's very easy for a novice player to get focused on generating money and kind of forget to generate victory points.
Yeah, a novice player would definitely make that mistake.
I feel like what would add to the game is to have a scoring chart and just keep your score up to date all the time, like rail games do.
The online version has a checkbox you can check that will keep score every turn.
Yep.
So if you want to do, you can also, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. I mean, the game, has the standard scoring track around the board. You can just move your guys every turn if you really want to. Nothing's stopping you from doing it.
Nah, and I feel like you should. I think it would make it, otherwise it just adds a lot of earlier German board games will have the memory mechanic where things aren't hidden from the players, but you have to remember it all. And like Tigris and Euphrates, once I started counting who needed what color, I did a lot better in the game. Yep. And it is in El Grande. If I just counted how many stupid people are in the Castile, it's almost trivial to win if no one else is counting.
Yep.
And other people never count.
Yeah. And the thing is, I do kind of like the halfway through scoring because it sort of makes you think about if I do something in the first half of the game, it'll get scored twice, right? So, but if I do something in the second half of the game, it'll only get scored once, right? It's like, say, if you Hacienda, right? That Hacienda will count double if you buy it early enough in the game. So it's sort of scoring twice makes you sort of buy, it's like, oh shit, I got to buy the Hacienda now, early in the game to get more points instead of later in the game. Yeah. So it's it adjusts your purchasing patterns based on if the animal deck's about to run out and such.
I mean, in the end,
wouldn't happen if you scored every turn.
Hacienda's it's a pretty good game. It's worth the money. If you're a German board game fan, I'll just buy it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a normal. I think it comes in the same style box as Attica, right? I think it's the same company.
I feel like it has the same level of staying power as it's better than a game like Tikal.
That's for sure.
Or Maya or Mexica or all those games.
Yeah, it's sort of like it's not like an A+ game. It's like a solid B+, A- game. You know, that you'll keep on your shelf. You'll bust it out once in a while. Really good. It's really good for people who are not like super German board gamers, and they'll learn a lot of basic German board game mechanics, like, you know, buying resources, using action points, drafting from a draw pile, and positioning on a board Tron style. You know.
You know what? I don't know why. I can't really articulate why I feel this way, but I realized it reminds me a little bit of La Cheetah, but not game mechanic wise, just in terms of I think it has the exact same staying power before we'll get sick of it that La Cheetah does.
It has some similarities to La Cheetah in terms of the positioning on the board with the hex tiles,
But La Cheetah is so
also the politics cards drafting.
But at the same time, La Cheetah is so much more limiting, and it has the influence factors and all the completely separate, different game mechanics.
I think what I like about Hacienda is that it just sort of takes all these like extremely fundamental and basic German board game mechanics. It doesn't have a shtick. It doesn't have anything fancy. You know, it's totally just bread and butter. But it's like that really good bread and butter you get when they serve you before you eat a meal at a fancy restaurant. You know, nothing special, but it's just solid. Does the basics really, really well with really nice polish. You know, and it comes out a very nice game. Very happy with the Haciendas.
So should we even bother talking about another game at this point?
I don't know, how long has it been?
As long as a normal show.
All right, it's up to you.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.